Welcome back, Sun Devil Learning Lab. I am so excited to see you guys again, to be able to work with you guys. I hope you guys are all having an amazing day. For those of you who do not know me, maybe we have some familiar faces, or maybe you've forgotten my name. It's okay, I won't be offended. My name is Miss Wendy. I am teaching third grade ELA along with Miss Martinez. We will be doing videos together throughout the week. We will be doing videos separately throughout the week. This one, unfortunately, is just going to be me for this one, but I'm sure we will get Miss Martinez in on another video. So welcome back to the Sun Devil Learning Lab. For those of you who may not know about the Sun Devil Learning Lab, it was created in March of 2020 as our answer to the current COVID-19 pandemic. We wanted to make sure that even though school was not in session in person, that you guys were continuing your education online. So we ran it through the school year, realized we really enjoyed it, so we came back for the summer. So I'm so excited to be able to continue to work with you guys, continue to further your education. And with that being said, let's get started. So our main focus for the day is going to be asking and answering questions. Now, I know a few of you may have turned into my asking and answering questions video about 2 weeks ago, and if you did not, feel free. They are always available. You can go check it out. But today we are going to be a little bit more creative, a little bit more crafty with our asking and answering questions. So our goal for the day is the same as it was in the first lesson. Our goal for the day is I can ask and answer questions about the text that I read. Super easy, super simple. I feel like we are constantly asking hundreds of questions every day, which is good, nice and easy, but this time we are just focusing about text that we have read. Okay, so really quick overview of our schedule. We are first going to review the 5 W's and an H, aka the question keywords. We are going to create our question bingo card, which I'll explain a little bit about what that is. I feel like it's very self-explanatory, but I'll explain a little bit more. And then I am going to do a read aloud where we are going to be using our bingo cards. So that being said, let's get started. So just a really quick review. Who can remember what the 5 W's and an H are? We usually refer to these as our question keywords. They're the words that are usually found at the beginning of questions. So we have who, what, when, where, why, and how. And those are just, like I said, those are 6 keywords that usually start the beginning of a question, especially one based around literacy, which are the questions that we're asking today. All right, so my question to you guys is, what are some questions that we can come up with when we read? I know we went over a few of them in the previous video, but if you have not seen that, or maybe if you forgot, which is totally okay, what are some questions we can come up with when we read it? If you guys want to pause the video, give yourself a little bit extra think time, maybe if you want to discuss with the person next to you, feel free to, go ahead. What are some questions we can come up with when we read? All right, so some questions that we can come up with when we read that I thought of off the top of my head are, we can ask, for example, who is the main character in the story? Here, let's go back and review our 5 W's. So we could ask, who is the main character? What is the conflict of the story? That works. When does the story take place? Where does the story take place? Those 2 questions are also known as the setting. Good job, guys. Why did that character do this certain action? You can ask questions about that. And how. One question we can ask for how is, how does this relate to my life? That is a great question, because for the most part, we are going to be focusing on today, asking and answering questions is a huge part of reading comprehension. We really want to make sure that you guys are understanding what you are doing, or excuse me, you are understanding what we are reading And that is where this asking and answering questions really comes into play. Because when you're asking and answering questions, you're basically testing yourself. You're like, how well do I know this story? Do I know the story well enough to pinpoint who is the main character? Where does the story take place? When does the story take place? Et cetera, et cetera. And if you feel that you can confidently answer those questions, it's a pretty good indicator into how your reading comprehension for that story is. So what we are going to do today is we are going to make a reading comprehension question bingo card. So what you guys are going to need to do is you are going to need to go grab a paper and some colored pencils or markers if you want to make it snazzy and colorful. No, I know I'm gonna make mine all colorful, so I'm gonna give you guys time to pause the video. Feel free to run and go get those things right now, and ready, set, go. And then so now that you are back, what you are going to do is you are going to divide your paper into 4x4 squares. So I had, if I can hold it right, so I had 4 squares at the top and then 4 squares down for a total of 16 squares on our bingo card. And then what we are going to do is in every single one of these boxes, we are going to put a question about the story. Now, for example, say my question I wanted to use was, where does the story take place? I would pick a box, let's say I want to do it right here, and I would just write down, where does the story take place? And ultimately, in the end, what we are going to do, so we are going to do a read aloud at the end of this, and then you can pair up, you can work in a group, or if you want to, honestly, you could just play this independently. After the read aloud that we do, we are going to attempt to answer the questions that we came up with for our bingo board about the text that we read, and we are going to try to get, if you want to make it easy, you can just try and get, a bingo, 4 in a row, 4 diagonal, 4 down, or if you want to try and get a blackout, if you want that extra challenge, try and answer all 16 questions about the text, you are absolutely able to. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pause the video. I am going to create my bingo card. I'm going to allow you guys time to create your bingo cards. And then when we come back, I will be ready on the read aloud and we will see how many of these questions we can answer. So I will see you guys in a little bit when you have your bingo cards. All right, see you in a bit. Hi guys, welcome back. Okay, so I cannot wait to see your guys' bingo cards. I just finished mine right here. It's in various shades of blue. Don't really know why, just felt like making mine all in blue. So I'm gonna show you guys just like what my questions are. I know you can't read it, it's backwards, but I'm gonna read them aloud to you. So my 16 questions I have about the story are, what would you add if you were the author? What is the central message? Where does the story take place? What happens at the end of the story? What do the illustrations add? Who is the main character? What happens in the beginning? What is the conflict of the story? What is the resolution? Why is the book titled that? How does this relate to my life? What point of view is the story? When does the story take place? What happens in the middle of the story? What was your favorite part? And why did the author want to tell this story? So some of those questions you may have noticed are slightly more opinionated. I had ones like, what would you add if you were the author? And why did the author want to tell that story? Sometimes, I'm struggling with words right now. Sometimes questions for reading comprehension aren't exactly perfectly taken from the book. Some of them they require us to look at the book, but we can kind of interpret our own answers. So what would you add if you were the author? So you were kind of putting yourself in the author's shoes. You're remembering the story. You're here thinking, what happened in the story? And then on top of that, you're adding another level of thinking, okay, I know this happened in the story, but what would I add to the story? So it kind of adds that deeper level of thinking, makes it a little bit more personal, a little bit more you, and I just think it makes the questions more enjoyable, honestly. So That was my bingo card. If you guys want to pause the video and take another few seconds to finish up your bingo card, maybe if you were stuck for questions, you totally can. If not, I am going to move on to the read aloud. So feel free to pause right here if you need more time. All right, guys, so I am going to share my screen with you guys real quick. Today, our read aloud is going to be from a book called The Honest to Goodness Truth. It is written by Patricia C. McKissick and illustrations by Giselle Potter. So I want you guys to have your bingo cards with you. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you guys have bingo chips or anything you want to, you can even exit out if you want to. You want to cross out the questions that you came across, feel free to do that. Or if you want to reuse this paper at some point, please use bingo chips, and let's try and get a bingo, guys. So this book is called The Honest to Goodness Truth. Libby hurried out the door and down the porch steps. "Did you feed and water old boss?" Mama called from her sewing room window. Libby stopped at the gate. "Yes, Mama," she answered. She was surprised at how easy the lie slid out of her mouth, like it was greased with warm butter. Mama stopped sewing Virginia Washington's wedding dress and came outside. Libby dropped her head and wouldn't look in her mother's eyes. "Are you sure?" Mama asked real stern-like. "Speak the truth and shame the devil." Libby opened her mouth, but Mama placed a finger in the air as a signal for her to stop. "Libby Louise Sullivan, I'll ask you once more and again, did you feed and water old boss?" Libby's stomach felt like she had swallowed a handful of chicken feathers. Her eyes commenced to fill with water and her bottom lip quivered. Then, taking a deep breath and gulping hard, she owned up to her lie. "I was gonna do it as soon as I got back from jumping rope with Ruthie May." Libby felt a lot better, even though Mama punished her double. For not tending to old boss, Libby couldn't go play with Ruthie May. And for lying, she had to stay on the porch for the rest of the day. It was the first time Libby had lied to Mama, and as far as she was concerned, it was going to be the last. From now on, only the truth, she decided. Libby started her truth-telling come Sunday morning. All the children from Briarsville were gathered outside the small church, waiting on Sunday school to begin. Everybody was admiring Ruthie May's new dress and matching hat when Libby came skipping up. "Morning, everybody. Morning, Ruthie May," she spoke all nice. "I like your outfit. It's real pretty. But you've got a hole in your sock." All eyes went from the hat to the dress to the hole. Meanwhile, Libby skipped up the steps and inside the church without even noticing the hurt on her best friend's face. Service ended, and same as always, Libby asked Ruthie May to walk home. "No, no, and no again." Ruthie May glared at her. Libby was purely surprised. "What'd I do?" "You told the world I had a hole in my sock." "It was the truth," Libby pronounced, feeling satisfied. "It was plain mean," replied Ruthie May, and she hurried away. Libby looked at the idea from the outside in, and then from the inside out as she walked home alone. By the time she trudged up her steps, she was still confused. The next morning, Libby joined a group of friends on the way to school. "Did you do your geography homework?" Willie asked Libby. "It was easy," she answered. "Not for me," Willie shook his head. "I didn't understand it, so I didn't do it." First thing in class, Libby started waving her hand. "Me, Miss Jackson, me, Miss Jackson." When the teacher called on her, Libby announced, "Willie don't got his geography homework." "Doesn't have his homework," corrected Miss Jackson. "No, ma'am, he don't." Libby was pleased with herself. Willie gave her an ugly look. "Why'd you tell on me?" he whispered as he headed to Miss Jackson's desk to explain. With certainty, she whispered back, "All I did was tell it like it is, so there." And she folded her hands neatly in her lap. Before lunchtime, Libby had told a lot of truths. She reminded everybody how Daisy had forgotten her Christmas speech and cried in front of all the parents. She told how Charlie Setta had gotten a spanking for stealing peaches off Miss Stacy's tree. And the whole class knew that Thomas didn't have lunch money and had to borrow some from Miss Jackson. By the time school was out, hardly anyone would talk to her. "Why are you all so mad at me?" Libby asked as her classmates started home without her. On Libby's way home, she wondered why her stomach felt as fluttery as it did when she'd told that lie. "I promised Mama I would tell the truth no matter how much it hurt," she reassured herself glumly. "And that's all I did." Before Libby knew it, she was in front of Miss Tulsaberry's vine-covered cottage. The woman was in her rocking chair, gliding back and forward and fanning herself with a hand-folding fan. "Howdy do, Libby Louise," she called in her sing-song voice. "What's that sad look you wearing on such a pretty day?" Libby jumped right into what was bothering her. "Can the truth be wrong?" "Oh no," Miss Tulsaberry said, fanning faster. "The truth is never wrong. Always, always tell the truth." "That's what I thought," Libby said, a smile of relief lighting up her face. Miss Tulsaberry leaned over the railing to pluck a bloom from one of the vines that grew all over her yard and up her house. "Don't you think my garden is lovely?" Libby thought on it. Ordinarily, she would have just said yes, for fear of sounding sassy, but that wasn't the truth. So as polite as you please, she answered, "Miss Tulsaberry, truly and honestly, your yard looks like a jungle." "Well, I declare," Miss Tulsaberry gasped. "Don't be mad," Libby pleaded. But it was too late. Miss Tulsaberry rushed inside her house and slammed the door. Even though Mama was busy putting the finishing touches on Virginia Washington's wedding dress, she still took time to listen to Libby's problem. "I feel something awful. My friends don't like me no more." "Anymore," repeated her mother. "No, they don't. And just 'cause I told the truth." The girl sighed deeply. Handing her a needle to thread, Mama asked gently, "Are you sure they're mad at you for telling the truth?" "I think so," said Libby. "Willie was mad as a hornet when I told Miss Jackson he didn't have his homework, and Miss Tulsaberry got plenty upset when I said her garden looked like a jungle." Mama smiled. "Oh, I see." Then, putting down her work, she took Libby's hand, saying, "Sometimes the truth is told in the wrong way, at the wrong time, or in the wrong way, or for the wrong reasons, and that can be hurtful. But the honest-to-goodness truth is never wrong." And Mama went back to stitching and pulling, stitching and pulling. Libby walked to the barn to feed and water Old Boss, all the time trying to get an understanding of her mother's words. Just then, Virginia Washington sashayed out of the fields and past the barn, come for the final fitting of her wedding dress. As she watched Libby brush Old Boss, Virginia burst into laughter. "That horse is older than black pepper," she said, shaking her head. "I doubt you can get $1 for that old flea-ridden swaybuck." And she flounced off towards the house. "Don't say those things about Old Boss," Libby called after her, throwing her arms around the horse's neck. She knew he wasn't the finest carriage horse he had once been. But why did Virginia have to rub it in? Now, Libby thought back on her own truth-telling, and Mama's words suddenly became crystal clear. The next day, Libby caught up with her friends on the way to school. She told Ruthie Mae, "You did have a hole in your sock, but I could have whispered it to you instead of hollering it out for everyone to hear. I'm sorry." Ruthie Mae smiled. "You finally got it," she said. Libby apologized to Willie, too. "I should have let you tell Miss Jackson about your own homework. It was unfair. Besides, no one asked me in the first place." "That's all right, but hey," he added, "do you think you could help me with my geography homework?" "No problem," said Libby. Later, Libby talked to all the other victims of her truth-telling. But there was one more person she had to see. On the way home, she headed straight for Miss Tulsaberry's house. Libby found her neighbor out front, down on all fours, pulling up flowers and snatching up vines by the roots. When Miss Tulsaberry saw her, she wiped her brow with the back of her hand and flashed a full smile. "I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings yesterday," Libby said. "Libby Louise, you were right," Miss Tulsaberry replied. "This place has gone completely and utterly wild." "But you were so mad at me." Miss Tulsaberry waved a dismissing hand. Truth is often hard to chew, but if it's sweetened with love, then it's a little easier to swallow. Libby really did understand. She picked up a hoe and began helping. Things are really looking pretty good around here, she said. And that was the honest to goodness truth. All right, and that was the book, The Honest to Goodness Truth. I love that book so much. So what we are going to do now is that's going to conclude our lesson for the day. Congratulations, guys. You guys did it. You guys did amazing. And what we are going to do is we are going to play our little story time bingo. If you guys want to play it by yourselves, play it with a team, you totally can. So basically what you are going to do is you are going to pick one. Let's say I want to answer who is the main character. So I'd look at that and I would say, I know the main character is Libby Louise. And what I would do is I would take my bingo chip or whatever and I would put it right there so it covered it. Or if I want to just take my marker, cross it off, I can totally do that. And like I said, your goal is to get a bingo, so that could be either 4 across, 4 down, 4 diagonal, or if you want an extra challenge and you want to try and get a blackout where you answer all of the questions, feel free to. As we discussed in the beginning, some of them are more opinion-based questions, so there will not be 100% right answer, but in some of them there will be. For example, who's the main character? We know the main character is Libby Louise. And if you guys have one where you are not quite 100% sure the answer, like say for example, mine says, I have one that says, where does the story take place? They never specifically said where the story takes place, but if I want to infer, if I want to take a guess and say, oh, well, I feel like this happened in the South because of their accents. They say stuff like, and y'all. I can totally use that as a guess. May not be 100% right, but an inference is better than no guess. So hope you guys have so much fun playing with your Storytime bingo cards. Cannot wait to see it. If you guys want to leave pictures of your bingo cards, let us know. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you guys on the next lesson. Bye.